Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joe's Metal Mancave vlog. Today we're going to do a collection update. Got a couple vinyls and a tape to talk about, and one other item that's a bit different from what I usually talk about, but it'll be cool, so stick around for it. Anyway, before we kind of get into that, I am drinking sake today, yes. Considering I have the sake, you'd probably expect something Japanese to be talking about in this upcoming collection update, but no, that's not the case. I got this from a Japanese restaurant not too long ago, and like when I ordered it from the menu, I'm like, I want shochikubai sake, and the lady or the Japanese waitress is just like, huh? You have that point? And I'm like, that one. And then she actually pronounced it how it was pronounced, and I was just like, wasn't even close. But anyway, you know, I don't know that I've ever seen anyone drinking sake in one of these collection update videos, so fucking A, let's do it. I don't have a proper sake carafe or drinking glasses, so I'm just going with a shot glass, so yeah. Yeah, very, very good stuff. Fucking A. It's a sipping alcohol. If you've never had it before, try it out. It's worth it. Anyway, I'm really starting off weird here. Got some vinyls recently from Dark Hymns Records, a record label based out of Minnesota, one that I had kind of heard about, but hadn't really investigated until just recently. And I've seen that they've got some very cool releases on this label, and it's definitely one I'm going to be returning to in the future. So anyway, let's talk about the first thing I got from Dark Hymns Records. It is Gates of Dawn's self-titled album, Gates of Dawn. So Gates of Dawn is I guess I would describe this as like atmospheric black metal or ambient black metal, and even dungeon synth black metal would be a pretty good way to describe this this release. So the album kind of kicks off with a almost neoclassical-ish dungeon synth, kind of Celtic songing intro that really sets the mood. Just fantastic for this release. The rest of the music is sort of this epic dungeon synth style intermingled with sort of like a raw black metal style. And I know what you're gonna say. Well, maybe that's kind of what Summoning's doing. And to be honest with you, the Summoning comparison is okay here, but it doesn't sound exactly like Summoning. It's more like a raw black metal band ran through a Summoning filter. But even so, like a lot of the keyboards do sound like Summoning, so the comparison's definitely there, but it doesn't sound exactly like that. Makes sense. But I really like the sound. Just a tremendous atmosphere, and it also, for the outro of the album, it has this almost kind of, I don't know, almost like 70s krautrock kind of feel to it. It's a really interesting album that I don't know, you know, other than Summoning, I can really compare it, but while not sounding like Summoning. But anyway, there's the front cover, which that in itself is, you know, not very, you know, typically black metal looking, so that's interesting. The back cover here. I hadn't really bought any black metal vinyls in a while, so this is a nice little treat. It's a black vinyl here, the label, and there's an insert too. I can't recall what that said now. Oh yeah. Recorded throughout September and October of 2020 in states of hallucination, Wales. GD is TN. There you have it. Look at this nice psychedelic thing going back here. In case you are on shrooms and listening to this or whatever, then they got you all set up with the psychedelics. But yeah, really good album. Really enjoyed this a lot. I think the only downside of this record though is that it's really short. I mean, it's only 29 minutes, and I gotta say, if there was just one more full-on black metal song, or maybe even a short dungeon synth song, kind of, you know, mixed in the middle there, this would have been, I really would have enjoyed this album a lot more. That's not to say I don't enjoy it. I think it's a phenomenal record, but just 5-6 minutes really would have been cool. But hey, it is what it is. You get 29 minutes of just incredible ambient, atmospheric black metal, and dude, I really like this. And I noticed that the rest of the discography is available on Bandcamp for pay what you want, so I'm definitely gonna have to check that out sooner. See if I can track down the proper cassettes or whatever that was released on originally. So yeah, Gates of Dawn. Continuing on, we're gonna talk about Hedek Ura and their new album, Handful Lagalash. Hedek Ura is the solo project of Kapani Getski, and he's someone that I've known personally since about 2012. Back in those days, he was playing in a two-piece black metal band that was known as Sacrificial Massacre, and together they made a sort of, I guess, raw black metal that had like Aztec and Satanism kind of themes. They worked together from about 2010 to 2014, and then the two guys had a massive falling out for whatever reason. I don't really know the details, but one of the guys continued out with Sacrificial Massacre as a solo project, whereas the other, he started Hedek Ura. And ever since then, he's been rather prolific. He's put out 3 full-length albums, with this being the third one, as well as several singles, splits, EPs, and quite a bit of stuff has come out in the nearly 10 years the project's been active. But so I heard when this band debuted with their first album, 10 Arrows from the Sky, back in 2015. I liked it. I thought it was a decent slab of pagan black metal. But I think what made it kind of interesting and different is that the band is, the themes are about Hungarian history and so on and so forth, but the band comes from Wisconsin, USA, and what's interesting is you just don't really hear a lot of American black metal musicians kind of channeling this more Eastern European sound into their music, and I think that's what's really remarkable about this, is it has that very distinctive just Eastern European sound that I don't immediately know how to describe, but I guess if you know, you know. And this album is very, very good. Originally recorded back between 2016 and 2017, and didn't see release until just now. So I'm not exactly sure of the reasons behind that, but a great progression of material from the debut album onto this much more fleshed out, much more interesting riffs, and very, very good keyboard parts. It's a very good album that I've come to really enjoy in like the month that I've had it. And I have to also say it's good to, finally catch up on an old friend's musical activities as well. Comes with this poster of the cover artwork, or if you want, you can hang Kapani himself on your wall. I guess that'd be kind of weird since I know him personally, but whatever. And then, kind of different for black metal at least, to get this, what would we call this, teal colored, color, I guess, for this vinyl. So I guess I can now say that I have a teal colored vinyl, but I wouldn't have expected it for a black metal release. But yeah, man, I really, really like this album. It wasn't instantaneous, but after a couple listens, I was like, yeah, this is very, very good raw pagan black metal, or maybe you could also kind of link it to something like the ambient black metal and atmospheric black metal, but I'm going to officially say probably pagan black metal with an Eastern European influence would be the best way to describe it. And if you like that scene, definitely look up Hanfalagalash and Hedek Ura. Continuing on, yes, we have even more Hedek Ura appreciation. This is the Hedek Ura Kelmen Kataya splits. The newest material from both of these projects. So going into this, Kelmen Kataya was a totally new band to me, but it's a Finnish band that's more or less the solo project of this guy named Grim666. He's had, it seems at some point something more of a full band, but it seems like most releases are just him, and then it's kind of, some details are fleshed out with session musicians, or some are done entirely by him, but he's been a Finnish, black metal or metal musician since the early 2000s, and he's been very prolific since then. Played in several projects and releasing a lot of material with all those projects, as well with Kelmen Kataya. He has been very prolific. Put out a lot of full-length albums and some releases between all of that, but yeah, quite a bit of stuff from this guy. So how to describe Kelmen Kataya? Well, the first song is sort of this epic, triumphant, almost galloping sort of black metal. Very, very good. Sounds like maybe possibly influenced by Graveland a little bit, but yeah, maybe more on the ambient or atmospheric black metal side of things, but definitely a good raw production that I like, and yeah, a very good opening track, whereas the second one and the third one are a little more darker, a little more mid-paced, but still with some raging moments, and yeah, great atmosphere, great keyboards, some very cool riffs, and quality vocals as well. How about Hedek Ura stuff then? Well, it's that same sort of, just that, Eastern European influenced pagan black metal that I already just described, and I think he does it very well. I don't really see any great progression of material on this, but I don't think that's really what you're going to see from this project too much. Not too much anyway, but definitely, he really captures that pagan black metal energy just wonderfully, and just delivers two really great songs again with this split tape. So there's the front cover, which has a very cool painting on it. Back, and once again we're treated to a teal cassette card tape. Not sure what's going on there, but yeah. So we got a sticker, and then the J card itself is quite nice, I would say. Get the cover painting there, current information, and then some lyrics. Yes, yeah, very cool release. This could be a good entry point for someone for both of these bands, but definitely a very strong release, and definitely one I recommend. Alright, one more for this collection update here, and something quite a bit different. Let's talk about the Resident Evil 1 original soundtrack. So, what can I say about Resident Evil? And just for clarity here, what can I say about the Resident Evil video game, not the movies? Let's not ever speak about those movies. So, the original Resident Evil game was released back in 1996, and it was, for me and a close friend of mine, a very special experience discovering that game back when it first came out. It was, I think, for not just me and him, but many people out there, their first experience with what became known as a survival horror game, or just a video game that was immersive and was able to scare you, literally give you jump scares. And the game's been out, as crazy as it sounds, it's been almost 30 years now, but I mean, I was in my mid-teens back then, and when I played that game, man, it really, I think both the game itself altered my feelings for games going forward, but then the soundtrack also was basically my first experience with any sort of dark synth music. And what's important about that is, looking back that time period, I didn't really know any dark synth music, but I knew from hearing stuff like that from movies and soundtracks and, other video games to a lesser extent, I knew that I had this appreciation for, just dark synth music. And I'm pretty sure the Resident Evil game was my first real entry point, more into that world. Of course, a few years down the road, I would discover black metal and dark ambient music. So, it's just interesting kind of, pondering your musical roots and where it all came from. And that's definitely, the case with the Resident Evil 1 soundtrack. So, kind of weird, but back in 1996, the soundtrack was originally never released. I don't really know why, but it just never saw a release. Not in Japan, not here, nowhere. But curiously, back then, I believe 1997, a remix album was recorded and released, and that sort of, in a way, kind of became known as the original soundtrack back then because, you couldn't get the original. It really didn't make sense. So fast forward all these years, and Laced Records is re-releasing both the original soundtrack in its original form and the remix album. So, the music on here is composed of not so much a single composer, but what's called the Capcom Sound Team. It's sort of, I guess, as far as I can tell, sort of like a bunch of musicians were like the house musicians for Capcom, and they basically, I think they use this name so they wouldn't have to pay individual rights to the composers. That's my guess. But even with that being said, and as weird as that sounds, it's not an uncommon thing in the Japanese video game market or scene or whatever. There's the Konami Kukiha Club or the Falcom Sound Team JDK, or there's probably other ones too I'm just not thinking of, but it's a Japanese thing, and they're probably just trying to screw the composer, but whatever. But at least one of the composers from the game is, his name is Masami Ada. He was a young composer at the time, relatively new to scoring music for video games, but he went on to do the soundtracks for, I believe, the next two Resident Evils, which are further enhance the original atmospheric mood set in this record. But he went into other Resident Evils and more Capcom soundtracks, and I don't know, probably still doing it to this day. But anyway, going back to this music, what we have here is basically very minimal dark atmospheric music. It's in a way, I would like to think that this music influenced some musicians back down the underground scene. I mean, who knows if it really did, but it would definitely be cool to learn if it did. But, yeah, so, the music is minimal, and I knew that going into that. I just, for the sake of nostalgia and just for the sake of finally owning this, I was like, man, I gotta get this. But, I would say the original soundtrack has limited appeal just because, all the tracks on this album are very short. I mean, some of them are like 30 seconds long, and you're kind of like, okay, why is there not more of a loop to this? But, there's such a minimalness to this. I mean, I definitely appreciate for what it is. It's classic and, very nostalgic for me, but it just feels like something is sort of missing. And I think, I'm gonna guess and say that the soundtrack was kind of rushed because the game itself, I heard, was rushed, and it was never expected to be the classic that it was, but then, obviously it became a classic and is, Capcom's most successful title. See, I'm going all video game nerdy on you guys now. I shouldn't be doing this. But anyway, fuck it, I don't care. So it's a 3 LP set, and you also get the Resident Evil 1 remix soundtrack. And I know what you're thinking, remix. Well, no, none of that's going on. This is not remixing the dance club style. No, this is basically a arranged and more fleshed out, detailed version of the original soundtrack. And as such, I gotta be honest, I like the remix album better than the original. I mean, what's also interesting about the remix album is that, there's like some of the samples from the games, from the sound effects, so it makes it more immersive, and while already, expanding upon the compositions. It's, I guess, just the better version, but obviously if you want to hear the original, you have to, get the original and hear the original, but I'm officially saying that I think I like the remix just a little bit more than the original. So anyway, yes, it is this 3 LP set. It was about, I think, $70 after shipping, but no regrets. So each one comes on black vinyl with some very cool new artwork involving some of the monsters from the game. Yeah, let's not lose that record, Joe. So there's that one. Yes, and one final one. It all comes on 100 gram 80 vinyl, and I'm not an audiophile myself, so I don't exactly know what that means, but I'm assuming it means it's really fucking good audio. And yeah, no complaints from me at all, because it definitely sounds fantastic. What more can I say? I mean, it's just, it's weird when you get a little bit older and then just the littlest things, or sometimes even big things can trigger that nostalgia. And, just listening to the soundtrack brings me back to those carefree, mid-teen, I think it would have been 15 when the game came out. So it brings me back to those carefree days when, you're kind of like, you're still in school and you may not have started your first job yet, but it's just a simpler time where, it seemed like there was less shit and horror in the world and you weren't as depressed and anxious all the time and stressed out. Just easier times. That's kind of why I like collecting stuff like this and just returning it every once in a while and just, getting those feels again. And one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, too, was back about 14, 15 years ago. I sold all of my old video games, every single one. We had Nintendo, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1 games, a lot of stuff that, after its release, became pretty rare. So I sold some of this stuff for some pretty good prices, but you can't put a price on a memory, and, it's just, I really wish I had, still had them now so I could play them, because, it's just... all that nostalgia involved, and although I got a good chunk of money and it helped finance, some stuff down the way, like a trip to England, it was nevertheless so, I really, wish I could have those games back. So, yeah, that's, the best I can say about Resident Evil, and, if you know it and you played it back in the day, I think you know, and I really wish that advertisement wasn't playing on the back of this video and playing off of YouTube right now, but hey, that is what it is. I think that's my cue to probably end this video and stop talking about Resident Evil. Alright, that'll about do it for this collection update here on Joe's Metal Mancave. Remember to drink sake when you want to get drunk, and of course, if you want some really good quality black metal, look up Volpas from Serbia. Fucking